my love among the daughters, as the apple tree among the trees of the wood. So is my beloved among the sons, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat under his shadow with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. He brought me to the banqueting house, his banner over me was love. He brought me to the banqueting house, his banner over me was love. Stay me with thy arms, comfort me with apples, for I am sick. For I am sick of love. I charge you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hinds of the field, that you stir not up, 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 nor awake, 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 my love, till he please. The voice of my beloved, behold, he cometh, leaping upon the mountains, skipping, leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. My beloved spake, and said unto me, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The rain is over, the rain is over, the rain is over and gone. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The voice of my beloved, behold, he cometh, leaping upon the mountains, skipping, leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. My beloved spake, and said unto me, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The rain is over, the rain is over,
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Denton Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Sarah. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Whatever your reason, whatever your worldview or spiritual tradition, age, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, financial means, physical ability, political affiliation, or immigration status, you are welcome here. Newcomers, please complete an online visitor information card to connect with us. See the chat or the seat pocket in front of you. Each week, children ages 0 to 3 are welcome in the sanctuary or in the nursery in the fellowship hall. Children ages 4 through 5th grade are invited to join the Explorers group by signing in at the welcome wagon, and then will be invited to their room later in the service. Youth 6th through 12th grade are invited to remain in the service. For our announcements, after worship today, the social justice team is meeting in classroom 1 in the fellowship hall 15 minutes after service ends. All are welcome. After worship today, please join us in the fellowship hall through this door for coffee and conversation. Today we welcome Lydia Alexander to the pulpit. Lydia, she, her pronouns, joined the worship team over a decade ago to be an ex-Christian and atheist voice, celebrating Unitarian Universalism as a faith, which she defines as a commitment to act on shared values. Now, let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
I call us to this morning's celebration of our shared values in English and Spanish with Witnesses of the World, Testigos del Mundo by Tanya Y. Marquez. It is now when we are called as witnesses of the world to mend it, to change its course, to restore it. It is now when we are called to act on our values. Not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud. It is now that we are called to continue our fight for justice, to organize, to speak up. It is now. Let us gather. Let us give each other courage. Let us worship. Es ahora que estamos llamados a ser testigos del mundo, a enmendarlo, a cambiar a su curso, a restaurarlo. Es ahora que somos llamados a vivir nuestros valores, a no escondernos, a no temer sino a ser audaces y a hacer ruido. Es ahora que somos llamados a continuar nuestra lucha por la justicia, a organizarnos, a levantar las voces. Es ahora, reunámonos, démonos valor unos a otros, celebremos. I now invite Julian Mackey to light our chalice. The morning of July 4th, I was reading Julie Lithcott-Hames' newsletter in my email and encountered an Instagram post she correctly guessed her readers might like to reshare. So this morning, let us meet the moment lighting not a sparkler, but our chalice with these words from Danielle Silverstein. You can light a sparkler and still burn the system down. Freedom, joy, and community are radical acts when you're living in a community that tries to take them from you. Celebrating July 4th can honor the America we want, not just the one we've got. And it's not unpatriotic to say we deserve better. This July 4th cannot be business as usual. Honor the day by refusing to look away. So no, this year's not just about fireworks and flags, it's about facing the gap between what this country promises and what it delivers. This July 4th, don't just light fireworks, light a fire in your community, in your conversations, in your conscience. With the fire of justice and the faith which is our commitment to act for justice, we light our chalice. And now, please rise in body or spirit for hymn 287, Faith of the Larger Liberty. For our time for all ages, I'd like all the ages to stay together, although I don't see any little ones here today. Later after the service, I hope you'll talk about this message. Independence Day is a celebration of our founders declaring the United States to be a new country with no kings. They wrote a letter called the Declaration of Independence telling England why we didn't want to be ruled over by their king anymore, and why we thought setting up our own government was the right thing to do. After the Revolutionary War, they wrote down the rules to actually set up our no kings government in the US Constitution. This was over 200 years ago, so the way people talked and wrote might sound weird and hard to understand, I mean, even for you guys. So what I'm going to do with a little help from Julian here is to put in my own words what I think the founders were trying to say, and I hope you'll talk with each other later about whether you agree or disagree.
The Constitution of the United States of America, Article 6, Item 3. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support the Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States.
The rules called the Constitution that make the United States a nation say that all of our leaders for our states and for the whole country have to make an unbreakable promise to follow these rules and make sure everybody follows them. But there will never be any rule that anyone has to prove they believe anything about God or gods. before we will let them be elected leaders or trust them to do any important job for our government. The Constitution doesn't force us to belong to a religion or have religious beliefs. But the signers of the Declaration of Independence did say a few things that mean they probably believed in some kind of God.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
The signers of the letter say it's obvious to them that everyone's rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness are given to the people by their Creator, which most of them back then would think of as God. And the purpose of setting rules that people agree to follow is to make sure everybody can live, be free, and try to be happy. But what makes it fair for government to set the rules is that people following them agree that these rules actually make sure everybody can do these things. And the independence part is us saying that the king and the government of England treating us unfairly gave us the right to start our own government, to change the bad rules for ones we agree are better at keeping us safe and free and giving us a chance to be happy.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states.
At the end of the letter, the signers say that they are willing to be judged by what most people back then would think of as God, for whether they were doing the right thing. But, and this is so important, they are writing this letter not in the name of any God, but in the name of the people, and by their authority, not any gods, officially letting England and the world know that the colonies are now states with the right to their own government, separate from England.
And in support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
The signers close their letter by saying that England should believe them, as they humbly admit that they personally are convinced divine providence, which most people back then would think of as God, is on their side. Because although they know what they are doing is very dangerous and England might go to war with them and kill them, they are brave enough to commit everything they hold dear to a nation founded on this form of government, whose authority comes from the people of the former colonies now declared to be the United States. That authority is those just powers deriving from the consent of the governed, powers that are fair because the people who have to follow the rules agree that for now these rules seem best. The authority of the government to make rules and make sure people follow them also comes from the people, not from God, which is why the people can question leaders and change rules they don't think are keeping them safe, free, and giving everybody the same chance to be happy. Because unlike kings, we can change our minds. We can admit we haven't always been right and try to fix our problems. We can still learn from history that our founders and leaders made some huge mistakes that were terrible for a lot of people, and that we kept making many of those mistakes. But the just powers our founders gave us help us learn from those mistakes and find ways to do better now. We can question our government and protest our leaders' bad choices peaceably, which means as long as we aren't hurting anybody.
And now it's time to light the children's chalice. I see we have no children here. Maybe a child at heart can come and light our chalice. Thank you, Sarah. We will say together the words in the order of service. This is our chalice of love and of light, uniting you use by day and by night. And this is the part where we sing the children on their way. Do we still sing? Let's sing. As a faith community, we share in our joys, sorrows, and concerns together. If you would like more support, please reach out to our pastoral care team at pastoralcare@dentonuuf.org. During this time, we welcome news of your personal life, birthdays, celebrations, illnesses, or things you are grieving. After each joy or sorrow, we will say together, "We are holding you in love." If you are joining us online, please feel free to type your joy or sorrow in the chat, and it will be shared. If you are here in the sanctuary, please raise your hand, and the usher will bring the microphone to you.
Hi, my name's Bobby. Pronouns are he and his. I'd like to light a candle of gratitude, I think, as well as sorrow. We lost Little Onion this week. She's passed over the Rainbow Bridge, but she's with Livy, and that makes my heart happy.
We are holding you in love.
Hello, Madeline, she, they. I want to share a joy that at work I've been slowly but surely coming out to more people, and I've been very well received, and it's just, yeah, a wonderful feeling to be able to feel more like yourself.
We are holding you in love.
This is Jeff. I'd like to light a candle for the tragedy of the flood in the Hill Country.
We are holding you and them in love.
This is Samantha, she, her. I just wanted to light a candle for my sister. I just saw her baby, but she's super tired, and her husband is just finishing up his PhD, so she's just exhausted. But I just wanted to light a candle just to keep her powerful through these, trying times with the baby waking up every 2 hours and having to feed. So, thank you.
We are holding you in love.
I'm Erin, she, her. I'd like your prayers for strength and hope for my husband's cousin and her family. She's going to be undergoing major surgery either this week or next.
We are holding you in love.
There are a few folks online who'd like to share. Mishi shares that her next round of cardiac tests begin tomorrow. So we wish her luck and hope that your answers are easily resolved. And she says that she misses all of you. Faye and Mary would also like to extend love and prayers for all those who have suffered loss due to flooding, and also to let y'all know that Mary continues to progress slowly, but she's progressing. And Alex would also like to light a candle for all those that our government has betrayed and continues to fail in countless ways.
We are holding you in love. And we'll light one last candle for any unspoken joys or sorrows.
Want to acknowledge the joys as well as the concerns, but I'd like to focus today's meditation on all that is heavy on our hearts. We lay down our burdens. Beloved companions, we arrive in this place where all we have to do is breathe. We don't have to impress or convince or win over. We don't have to know the words. It's okay we didn't read the book or pass that class or carry that title or meet that mark. We don't have to be anything but who we are. Here we rest in essence together and move into this communal rest. We lay down our burdens, our longing, our craving, our unmet need, our error, our regret, our disappointment, our anxiety, our shame, our sheer exhaustion, our bewilderment, our bafflement, our burgeoning terror. All of this we lay down together today. As we do this, may we be filled instead with presence. May we be held in the comfort of our community. May we discover new compassion for ourselves and others. May we greet this moment with gentleness, ease, and gratitude. For this air we breathe together, for these questions we ask together, for the justice we seek together, for the songs we sing together. Amen, and blessed be. Our first reading is from Thomas Jefferson's Notes on the State of Virginia. It's well known, but bears acknowledging that along with many of our founders, Jefferson did not always live up to his ideals of ensuring life, liberty, and happiness for all of us. But he was so proud of his legacy of leaving us the means to do better, he had it carved on his gravestone. Author of the Declaration of American Independence and of the Statute of Virginia for Religious Freedom. So here he is, talking about his ideas that show up in the Constitution's First Amendment protections against requiring all Americans to have the same religion and prohibiting anybody from practicing their own religion.
The error seems not sufficiently eradicated, that the operations of the mind, as well as the acts of the body, are subjects to the coercion of the laws.
Jefferson is saying that people are still getting it wrong by thinking that government can punish people for what we think as well as what we do.
The rights of conscience we never submitted. We could not submit.
That is, we can't change what we privately think is right and wrong, even if we wanted to.
We are answerable for them to our God.
That is, the government can never hold us accountable for our beliefs.
The legitimate powers of government extend to such acts only as are injurious to others.
Note here that legitimate powers means just powers.
But it does me no injury for my neighbor to say there are 20 gods or no God. It neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg.
The government cannot punish people for being polytheists or atheists because saying what you believe doesn't hurt anybody. Nobody has to agree with you, and the government can't force everybody to agree on what we believe. Please rise in body or spirit for hymn 300 with heart and mind. I found our second reading from the story of Prophet Job by Aisha Stacy on IslamReligion.com, which says it's a website for people of various faiths who seek to understand Islam and Muslims. Stacy writes, in the 10th century CE, renowned Islamic scholar Ibn Kathir gathered what little information has survived about Job. Therefore, what follows is Job's story based on Quran, the authentic traditions of Prophet Muhammad, may the mercy and blessings of God be upon him, and Ibn Kathir's stories of the prophets. Job was a descendant of Noah. He loved God, worshiped him alone, was patient, steadfast, and sought forgiveness often. Satan overheard a group of angels discussing that Job was the best man of his generation, and Satan's dark heart was filled with jealousy and silent rage. His plan was to tempt Job away from goodness and have him fall into disbelief and corruption. Satan attempted to distract Job from his prayers, but Job remained steadfast and prayed with commitment and concentration. This caused Satan's rage to grow, and he complained to God, saying that Job was a devoted worshiper only because God had blessed him with wealth and possessions. God allowed Satan and his helpers to destroy Job's possessions, but Job remained true to his belief and acknowledged that God was able to give or take wealth and possessions as he pleased. Satan became even more frustrated and returned to God, saying that Job only hid his disappointment because of his large, happy family. Satan and his helpers destroyed Job's home. The building came crashing down, killing all Job's children. Job turned to God for comfort and accepted this most heavy test without complaint.
Reverend John Saxon writes, "This religious community exists by its mission, as a fire exists by burning. And it is the time, the energy, the love, and the financial support of the members and friends of this community that fuels our mission to nurture and sustain a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse liberal religious community that transforms lives and serves the world. Your support, the free and generous support of each and every member and friend of this community, is what fuels this community and its mission in a world threatened by division and fear. Each week, we pass 2 baskets, one for this faith community and one for the larger community. Our second offering recipient for July is the Doof Pastoral Care Fund. There we go. This fund supports Doof members and friends with emergency needs like electricity bills or medications. If you need assistance, please reach out to pastoralcare@dentonuuf.org. Please see the chat or the order of service for ways to give. The offering is now greatly received.
Aisha Stacy's story of Prophet Job goes on to tell us that Satan comes back to make a third request, this time to harm Job's body, which Satan and his helpers began to do by the will of Allah, but not his soul, heart, or intellect. I think of the phrase operations of the mind, for which Jefferson said we are answerable to our God, not the government, which can never hold us accountable for our beliefs. The legitimate powers, just powers, of government can only restrict acts of the body that harm others, such as picking pockets or breaking legs. It can punish lying with the intent to harm others, but not believing lies unless people act to harm others. In the No Kings terms of the Declaration of Independence, the government's purview is to keep us safe, free, and give us a fair chance to be happy. But because Satan is not a king, he has to get God's consent to keep harming Job, which God keeps giving as a test of Job's devotion to him. But God's consent is not like that of the people. There was no democracy in the ancient Near East. The Abrahamic God's authority doesn't come from the consent of those he rules. He is a king, so he doesn't have to get Job's permission to let Satan keep harming him and destroying every source of happiness in his life. That God rewards Job and restores everything to him in the end does not change that he allowed the harm to happen in the first place. Aisha Stacy says, citing Quran 21:84, God tells us that Job's story is a reminder for all those who worship God, when one truly worships God with full submission. And I would cite Jefferson to say that a person's right to make or refuse submission to their God is a right of conscience, which, in his view, they are answerable to their God. As the signers of Declaration of Independence submitted, but to whom our Constitution does not subject the people, because worship and submission to God or gods are not the government's to command. And as a non-creedal religion, UUs reserve the right to apply stories to ourselves without taking them literally. Whether a person worships 20 gods or no gods, the government still cannot command our conscience to believe there is one God to answer to, nor to believe that we should submit to that God, as do many Muslims, Christians, or Hebrews. As UUs, we get to ask, who are we in this story? We get to put ourselves in God's place and ask whether we would have let Satan and his helpers harm Job. Whether, if we were Job, we should have submitted to the harm. For, as the 19th century Black freethinker, abolitionist, and Unitarian sympathizer, Frederick Douglass said, "Find out what people will submit to, and you have found the exact amount of injustice which will be imposed upon them. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress." We have the right even to ask whether we, America, might be playing the role, again I emphasize not literally, of Satan or his helpers in situations like Israel's bombing of homes and hospitals that come crashing down on Palestinian children. Or whether, from the safety of our own homes, we are falsely identifying with Job as the victim of injustice. Now the Jews, praying like Job during the Holocaust in concentration camps, blessing the name of God who can give and take from them as he pleases, I don't think that was a false identification. In Palestine today, both Jews and Muslims identifying with Job by worshiping God in full submission would appear to be enjoined to nonviolent responses to the atrocities committed against them as well. Palestine triggers this memory from my 20s, how rethinking the biblical end time story that I had taken much more literally as a Christian teenager led to my becoming an atheist. Nearly 40 years ago, that question hit me hard. What if, as a Christian, I could be fooled by the Antichrist into thinking he's God? Because I couldn't see any right side of history to Jews and Muslims killing each other off to make way for Christians to dominate a new earth after the old one had been destroyed in a nuclear holocaust or by climate change. If God were a good king, he wouldn't command this or even allow it. I was finally able to admit to myself that I didn't see, hear, or feel any God giving commands, only a lot of people over the ages justifying their terrible acts by claiming they were carrying out God's plan. There wasn't any God to be angry at, hate, or fear. If there were, my conscience led me to believe that being was so morally offensive as to be unworthy of the name God. No matter how powerful, a God that destructive of life, liberty, and happiness could never be a legitimate authority, let alone a supreme one. It does no one any injury for me to say so, just as anyone telling the story of a God commanding or allowing genocide and ecocide, among other atrocities, may morally offend me, but it neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg. Anyone still has the right to tell that story and even believe it, just not act on it. You can believe people are going to hell all you want, as long as you don't do anything to make their lives hell. And yet, no longer believing the same stories as the culture around me, I felt like I had ripped myself out of community. So I sought out new community by way of a UU study group on the goddess. That led me to a series of Wiccan and neo-pagan groups who accepted me as a non-theist, and eventually to this church, Doof, through friends I made in the pagan group here. Shortly after joining Doof, my sense of belonging to a community was challenged again by my becoming convinced of Jesus myth theory, that the stories about Jesus were most likely not written about a literal historical person. Even liberal Christians, and even UUs, seem to me to have a much harder time accepting a merely metaphorical Jesus than a merely metaphorical God. But as with Islam and Judaism, what we believe about the historical details of the stories of Christianity is less important than how we act on the values we believe they teach us. And to me, that's what faith is, a commitment to acting on our shared values. As UUs, we can see all our values in the Declaration of Independence. A generosity driven by love moved the founders to extend justice and equity to all the American people. The founders pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to each other to transform our government into one committed to realizing life, liberty, and happiness for all the people, united in an interdependent and pluralistic whole. That pluralism and independence and interdependence is the e pluribus unum of our first national motto, out of many, one, rather than its 20th century anti-communist replacement, in God we trust. As the founder, John Adams, put it, our democratic form of government was among the first founded on, quote, simple principles of nature, contrived merely by use of reason and the senses, rather than any interviews with the God or under any inspiration of heaven. This stands in stark contrast to the Ten Commandments, which states like Texas are passing laws requiring schools to display, alleging their historic importance to American democracy. I find it a poignant irony that Christian nationalism's privileging of Mosaic law poses a greater threat to the safety, freedom, and happiness of more Americans today, especially trans, non-binary, and gender-fluid people, than the virtually non-existent possibility of Muslims' Sharia law being imposed on us. As presidents, both Adams and Jefferson showed a pluralistic consideration for Muslims. Adams, in the Treaty of Tripoli, declaring the U.S. would never go to war with Muslim people based on religion. and Jefferson's personal study of the Quran making him culturally sensitive enough to welcome the Libyan ambassador with an iftar dinner after sundown. However, among the failings of Jefferson and the other founders was an obliviousness to freedoms, religious and otherwise, of enslaved people, including thousands of Muslims. It would be absurd to punish ourselves for Jefferson being a hypocrite by rejecting his noble beliefs about democracy and religious freedom, because they were inconsistent with his blatantly condemnable actions as an enslaver. So I feel comfortable saying our current president, yes, that one, was right when he said that the Declaration of Independence was about, quote, love and unity. He just missed the main point: a government with no kings and unity in the service of transformation, and interdependence pledging in solidarity to transform a government that had become destructive of our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. How the First Amendment guarantees us the means to work this transformation through peaceably assembling to petition the government for redress of our grievances. The Declaration of Independence was just such a petition to England. To return to my point about historical details in stories of Jesus, a non-literal interpretation of God incarnating in Jesus that I remember reading somewhere is one of God disappearing into his people. As an atheist, I don't take God's disappearance literally, as some theologians do. Rather, as a UU, I believe it is in responding to the challenge of our prophetic people's transforming power of love that we, the American people, embody the just powers of a creator, supreme judge, and divine providence, confronting the powers and structures of evil. Loving our neighbors as ourselves, we take on the role of Jesus in saving ourselves, not once and for all, but by committing to the long struggle to do better by each other. Judaism also has a concept of saving ourselves that people can collectively embody, the principle of tikkun olam. I discovered that some Muslims have a parallel concept, Islah. In We Refuse to Be Enemies, a book on Muslim-Jewish relationship building, interfaith activists Sabia Rahman and Walter Ruby note, the tenets of our faith are what unite us, in particular, four principles common to both Judaism and Islam. Third is the principle of repairing the world, tikkun olam, in Judaism, and Islah in Islam. Both embrace the concept of repairing the world through the pursuit of social justice and peace building. Peace building may cost us our lives, fortunes, or reputations, as it did the great African-American singer, actor, and racial justice activist Paul Robeson. Like Martin Luther King, Robeson bore prophetic witness to a hopeful vision of the future. Also, like MLK, he was falsely accused of being un-American for his support of economic justice during the anti-communist hysteria of the mid-20th century. Robeson was exiled. King was assassinated. Indeed, we can see the cost of prophetic witness today in the attacks on democratic socialist Zoran Mamdani, running to be the first Muslim immigrant mayor of New York City, for explaining that for many, the slogan "globalize the Intifada," which he doesn't personally prefer because the meanings of Arabic terms are often twisted, is a symbolic call for Palestinian human rights, not for violence or anti-Semitism. In fact, Mamdani was attacked by the Holocaust Museum itself for pointing out that Intifada, which means struggle, was used by the museum in Arabic translations of text describing the World War II Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Even with many Jews vouching for him, including Brad Lander, his co-endorser in the Democratic primary, both liberal and conservative pundits and politicians continue to flood our media with claims that he is advocating to globalize a violent intifada. And with sad predictability, he's getting death threats over this. The powers of government, by vesting the powers of government in the people rather than God, our founders gave us a way to struggle for our rights nonviolently by changing our representatives instead of our religion. So no matter who we vote for or what we believe in, as Americans and UUs, our many spiritual traditions and worldviews strengthen us to stand with all the sacrificed and falsely accused. As prophetic witnesses to the vision of a world transformed by love, committed to building it peacefully through the exercise of just powers, by acting in good faith on our shared values. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 1017, Building a New Way. Will you join me in the unison words for extinguishing our chalice? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May you go comforted by Paul Robeson's words of hope. Sorrow will one day turn to joy. All that breaks the heart and oppresses the soul will one day give place to peace and understanding, and everyone will be free. Amen.